That white oak that you may have seen in the last episode in my stockpile there is this right here. I cut it off at 14 feet in length. What I'm going to need for the top rafter will be 13 foot 4 or something like that. So this should be long enough to do that. The bottom cords are only going to be about 11 feet long. Now the top cords, I need a 3 by 7 is what I need for the top cord. The lower cord is actually going to be 4 inches thick or 4 inches wide, and the height of it doesn't really matter. It's kind of going to depend on how much lumber I can get out of this log. Okay, I've got this shimmed on that end to where the center pith is even on both ends, so it's ready to cut. I don't know if I'll do any cutting today. I know about what I want this to look like, but I really need to get the design work done on it. Now, if I had a really big slab, which I guess technically I do in the area that now is my storage, but I'd have to move everything out of there to have enough room. If I had a big slab, layout would be pretty doggone easy so far as lengths and stuff, but I am going to have to depend on the Pythagorean theorem and the computer to tell me the angles and the lengths and stuff that I'm going to need to cut. The rafter part, or the top cord of what you saw me cutting, is these right here. They got a little bit wet overnight from a rainfall. And these here will make up the bottom cord on the trusses. The vertical post and the diagonals I have not yet cut. I'm going to go ahead and lay these in place. Probably go ahead and get them at least screwed together and some temporary gusset plates put on before I cut anything else. All right, I have the parts laid in place relatively close to where they go. Now, this maybe not quite as important as it was in earlier episodes, but we want to be in relatively flat plane when we're assembling these, which I've got fairly close right now. It's not quite as exacting as it was in previous episodes. In episode, let's see, 40 and 41, I built stairs, and that is absolutely critical that you're on a flat plane so that you don't have any twists in the stairs when you go to installing them. Then I did a barn door in episode 47 and an entrance door in episode 63 through 65. And for doors and stairways, of course, that's absolutely critical. You don't want any twist in the assembly when you're finished. This too is somewhat critical, but they are small enough members over a long enough span that there will be some movement that will be available after I get them up and in place. The pieces are laid approximately where they go. They're not quite perfect. What I need to do is make up some temporary gussets before I actually get to screwing these together with structural screws. in the end, I will end up having some T-plates and square plates and V-shaped plates and a little bit of steel everywhere in order to hold this just right where it should be. The side that is the top here will actually be the back side or the inside of that far end. And what I've decided is I want this to look somewhat board and batten and also give me some protection on the ends. So I will actually put some boards between both the top and bottom cords, and that will do a whole lot to hold it together too. Okay, I have the first truss put together. I actually kind of like the way it looks. I'll show you the way everything is connected here. One thing that I didn't really want to do, and if it bothers me enough, I may take and countersink them, are having exposed screws there, and then the same thing on the other end. Everywhere else, I got a couple exposed nails here, same thing on that other cord. And then everything else will be truss plates on the other side. On this side, what I'll end up doing, and the reason that I left this groove here, is everything will have everything will be sided on the inside face. And then the outside face, you'll be able to see the beams, but that will help to keep a little bit of snow and stuff out of the area where I park. Now for fasteners. You saw me put on the truss plate there. I got structural screws, 2 going that way, 2 coming this way. Okay, on these intermediate cords, I have 2 structural screws that go all the way into the cord through the rafter and into the cord on both sides. The center one isn't all that well attached, except that I did put a truss plate here. And then once I get it all completed, the other side, and this will happen after it's in place, I don't have the pieces yet, but I will have steel plates at all of the joints too. I think I'm ready to give it a try setting that truss up on top of those beams. Now I don't really know what's going to happen with that center spreader. If I need to move it one way or another, my tractor of course won't go under it. I just really don't know. I hope I don't have to take it completely out of there and then replace it later, but I may have to. It is up there, and that honestly was the easy part. The difficult part is going to be tipping it up into place. I don't have anything that's going to reach that high, first of all, so I'm going to have to figure out a way of getting this tilted up. Now, I was at the maximum height and curl on the tractor. When I set this in place, it was just barely enough. I really thought I'd make it fairly easily, but again, I had just barely enough. So what the next step is going to be to put a 2x4 that is screwed into the end of each beam. Might be easier to reach from over here. I will screw it into the end of each beam, and that'll probably be a 10-foot 2x4. Run it down to the ground. I'll run it down to the ground and drive a flat stake there, and that will hopefully keep this from pushing off the end as I'm trying to tilt it up into place. Now how I'm going to do that, I'm going to be winging it from here. I'll probably end up using a gin pole to get it tilted up. And then holding it's going to be difficult too. Now, if this was a regular truss on a building, I would nail a 2x4 or 2x6 to the side of the building and let the truss be tilted up into place against that 2x4. Here I don't really have anything to hold to other than, like I'm doing with the ends, to be able to use a long 2x4 that is attached to the ground. So a lot of experimentation, a lot of winging it. I'm not going to record it all because this is going to take some time, but I'm hoping to have this truss up in place by the end of the day today. It has been a long day in getting prepared to tilt this thing up. I'm running out of light, so I'm not going to try to do it tonight. Since this is actually something that to me looks pretty dangerous, I'm trying to build in some redundancy into just about everything that I'm doing. That thing probably weighs better than 1,000 pounds. I doubt that even if things failed, it would come off of the beams, but having that darn thing swing down and hit me or someone else down there, the minimum going to have some internal bleeding and broken bones. It could even kill you. So I don't want to take any chances, any more chances than I absolutely have to. This gin pole I've got set up and ready to go. Right now I've got a 2.5-inch square piece of oak that's holding it up. I've got the tractor parked under it just in case something would fail overnight. But in the morning I'm going to pull the tractor out from under it, and I'm going to weight down the bottom of this gin pole just so that it can't slide back as I'm tilting this thing up. Haven't used it for about 20 years, and that was on a job. It actually belongs to a friend of mine. That was on a job where we didn't really have all that high a lift. I don't remember what we were doing at that point, but really it seems to me like the safest solution to doing this. I've got ropes tied off to the truss, one on this side, one on the far side, so that I can tie off to a post here or a tree over there and a tree on that side. Once I start getting it up close to being in place, I'll probably do some tightening and slackening of the ropes just in case something does fail, in case the gin pole fails, that I'll be tied off and hopefully it doesn't come all the way back down. I'll be back in the morning. I have checked the distance from outside to outside of beam. The posts are both plumb. I have 19 foot 11 inches, which is exactly what I want, outside to outside. That's what I built the truss to. I've got some holes pre-drilled in the trusses ready to put structural screws from the truss into the beam. I think I'm as ready as I can be right now to do it, but I probably don't have a half hour of light, and if there are any kind of problems at all, I don't want to be half done in the dark. So I'll see you again in the morning. That has the truss up there and attached on each end. And that was actually pleasantly surprised that that was easier than I thought it was going to be. So I know what to do on the next one. I may end up shortening that gin pole just a little bit. I had calculated the distance and added a foot to it, but it's probably more than a foot even. So I may shorten that up a little just for a little extra strength. But other than that, I'm pretty much going to do the same thing on the other end. I have all of the ropes untied. The gin pole is down. The temporary bracing is in. Everything is plumb and as near perfect as can be. I believe I have the timber framing pretty much finished, with the exception of this north-south diagonal bracing, which I still don't quite know what I'm going to do with that. So anyway, next come the conventional framing, but that's not going to happen for a little while. I have a family reunion that I plan to go to here, and so I'll be out of state for the next week and a half or so. Appreciate you being here with me through all this. It's been kind of a pain. There's been things that I've really been kind of winging it and thinking as I go, but it all seemed to work out. I didn't get hurt. Didn't do any damage to anything, so what more can I ask for? I will see you on the next episode where we get started on some of the conventional framing. Maybe a little while. See you next time. Goodbye.